Hello everybody, this is Yoko's Anime Reactions, and I would have uploaded this on YouTube, the actual reaction on YouTube, but I tried that, and it got blocked worldwide, essentially. So, and I was gonna trim out whatever it was taking out, and it was a whole friggin' thing. So, this is gonna be my view for the RWBY Justice League crossover movie, Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 1. And the reaction will be for the link in the description. So if you guys are wanting to see the reaction, I'd say go and watch the reaction and then come back and watch this. Because this is going to be me talking about the movie. And I was very confused the entire time I was watching this because it made no sense. Until it got to where they revealed the twist of what was going on. And then I was like, oh, that explains it. And, the people who ended up getting crossed over with RWBY was Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, The Flash, Green Lantern, Superhero and Vixen, I've never seen them before, and Batman. So, 7 superheroes from the DC universe. I probably should have known that it was going to be blocked. I guess I got lucky that it didn't get copyright striked instead. So, yeah, I got lucky on that one, I guess. Anyway, Superman ends up coming across RWBY and Yang as they are fighting off some Grimm, and the Grimm are acting kind of odd. They still look the same and everything. The bad thing is that they were absorbing the dust from their attacks. So, that was something odd. Another thing was that they were shooting laser beams, and the Grimm don't do that. And Superman tries to go in and help them, and, well, for one thing, he can't really use his powers very well in this world. He can't fly, for one. He tries to use his heat vision. Works a little bit. And, the Grimm start heading to Beacon, even after they scare off the Grimm. And obviously, Superman has no idea what's going on. He has no idea where he is, how he ended up there, or why he is a teenager. Yeah, all the superheroes from the DC universe were turned into teenagers in this world, essentially. And RWBY and Yang try to explain the whole, semblance, auras, stuff like that to him. He is like, just as confused as I was, because I was trying to figure out where in the timeline this took place. And judging from the memories that were showing flashbacks of for RWBY and Yang, I was thinking that it was at least past volume 3 because Yang had her robotic arm. So that much was at least known. And what confused me even more was they were mentioning going to talk to Ozpin. And I'm like, wait. I didn't think about it until, a bit into that, and I was like, wait a minute. If it's at past volume 3, then Ozpin shouldn't have been alive. It should have been Ozma in Oscar's body. And the school was still pretty much intact from what we saw, though it should have been pretty much damaged after the fall of Beacon. And even still, that was... Even if they had been working on trying to fix it, that still would have been a lot to fix, even for Glenda. And... Blake is at her home, talking to her mother, and her mother's kind of acting strange, and Blake realizes that something's off. Because her mother was talking about her being still a child, and she was like, wait, I haven't been a child for a while. And the guards end up bringing someone in to see them, and it turns out to be Diana, aka Wonder Woman. And they start talking, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And both Superman and Diana cannot remember a gosh darn thing about how they ended up in there. Except that they had been possibly fighting something when it happened, and that they had been adults when it happened. And Ruby and Yang end up going up to Ozpin's office with Superman, and they get there, and nobody's there. And the office looks to be pretty much very intact. Like I said, the place was quite damaged during the attack on Beacon. And somehow Blake and Diana end up getting there around the same time that Ruby, Yang, and Superman do. And I'm like, Menagerie's very far away. How did they get there so quickly? And I was thinking that maybe Diana flew them there really fast or something. And I was like, wait a minute, something's not right here. And even they were kind of iffy about how long it took them to get there. And Ruby was trying to get a hold of Weiss, but the comm systems were down, and they were trying to also explain the whole the communications system that they have and everything, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that stuff still down in volume 7 and 8? No, they couldn't have been down in volume 7 and 8. Because like I said, I'm still trying to figure out when in the timeline this is all set up. They better not come down this hallway. And sorry about the room being a mess. Like I said, this place is a catch-all, and it's just annoying. I don't feel like cleaning or straightening up. I barely make my bed sometimes. It's just because I gotta deal with those two, and I gotta clean on the rest of the house. So I'm like, no one's gonna go in my room, so it's not that as big a deal if my room's not completely clean, you know. Anyway, they're all standing there talking, and the elevator opens, and guess who walks through the dang door? Ozpin. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Because this makes absolute no sense. They have not time traveled, as far as we know, because Ozpin should have been dead. And I didn't realize this at the time, but when they were fighting the Grimm, they didn't generally disintegrate like they usually do. They disappeared like they were illusions, essentially. And Diana goes to question Ozpin about what's going on, because at this point Ozpin has changed from Ozpin to Oscar. So yeah, something was very confusing me, and I knew something was off. Something was very wrong while I was watching this. And it was like I said, she picked him up and held him against the wall as Oscar, and then he changed back to Ozpin, and then they start going down to meet with some of the others, and we go to a lesson with Glenda, with, you know, Jean, Nora, and Ren there, with Vixen, the Flash, Cyborg, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Cyborg, the Flash, Vixen, and Green Lantern, and it wasn't the Green Lantern that I know of. The Green Lantern I know of is from the Justice League show. You know, the one that ends up with Hawkgirl, or has a thing for Hawkgirl. No, it's a different Green Lantern. I'm guessing. Like I said, I'm not very as familiar with the DC universe as I used to, because I used to watch the Justice League a lot, or the Justice League show, the cartoon, a lot. And when I was watching it, I was like, wait a minute, they had better not show Pyrrha being in the classroom with them, because if they did, don't know what I would have done, to be honest, because that would have shown that things were definitely screwed up, because she's dead. Ozpin is dead, Pyrrha is dead. And they shouldn't have been in that thing to begin with. So I knew that something was wrong. And as the other, they end up getting a little kid's explanation on what aura and dust is, what it's used for and stuff, because the DC people have no clue what it is. And, I almost forgot to mention this, as they were leaving the office, we see a ring on the desk, and RWBY had seen it. That was Green Lantern's ring. And she does not have it, and thus she cannot use her power, and thus she's completely unable to do much of anything, essentially. And they decide to give John and the others some sparring time with Cyborg and the others. And, yeah, they just about get their butts handed to them, essentially, because John and the others are more experienced at fighting in this world, and they are essentially out of their elements. And the others end up showing up and go and greet their friends. Bad thing is that when they do, Oscar/Ozpin disappears like it was an illusion, and Glenda disappears like she was an illusion, like she wasn't there, like she was like a computer-generated type thing, essentially. And while all this is going on, Weiss is at a party that her father is holding, even though they should be using manpower to, fix the communications tower and all that. Otherwise, they can't communicate with anybody, and her father is more interested in just in socializing than doing that. And Weiss goes off on her own and finds some kind of costume and just picks it up and tosses it in a random room, not even really noticing that people were tied up in the room, I don't think. And she ends up running into someone, and I was like, is that Bruce? Because he seems like he would be the most at home in some kind of party like that, essentially. And it turns out it is Bruce. And I assume that Vixen normally doesn't have a tail in the DC universe, because she has one. She's a Faunus. And I was trying to figure out how would Batman fare in this kind of world, because all he has is when it comes to any kind of fighting skill is his gadgets and his intellect and his strength, essentially his physical strength. And even then, it's not like in comparison to like Wonder Woman's strength, for example. But anyway, I was wondering how he would fare in this world, and it turns out he fared a lot better in this world, considering he is a Bat Faunus and he has some kind of power to see either through illusions or being able to see tech or heat signature or something like that or something. And he has no idea that he was even a Faunus to begin with, because the wings appear out of nowhere. I was like, what the fuck? And yeah, he ends up getting captured because someone had stolen the key to the lab, and it turns out it was him. And he gets taken and thrown into a cell, and he's trying to maneuver using the wings while he's sitting in that cell, which is probably a good idea. And Weiss ends up talking to him and realizes that he is right, that her memories are kind of off, because she has memories of up to at least, I think, volume 6 or 7 or something like that. And I knew that something was really off at that, and I was still, like I said, very confusing. And the gang ends up splitting up while this is going on, and Jean and Green Lantern, aka Jessica, go to get her ring back at the office because RWBY had mentioned it to her. And some of the others go to investigate the Grimm, and Blake, Yang, and Diana go to meet up with Weiss and hopefully find Batman, because that was the only one they were missing. And yeah, you can expect that the Justice League, having experience having to fight crime and everything and take charge in situations like this, they kind of try to take over out of instinct, essentially, and the others kind of get mad at them about it, because it's not your world, it's ours. Let us handle it, because you guys are fishes out of water on this one. And the girl, Blake, Yang, and Diana end up talking, getting to know each other. And I'm starting to think that this is possibly canon from Volume 9. Because it seems like the whole Bumblebee thing is starting to make itself known during the fight scene with Yang, Blake, and Diana against a bunch of the dang Grimm. And it turns out that they're starting to get used to the remnant abilities and everything. And, yeah. Weiss ends up letting Batman go and tries to get him to go to the lab because she wants answers, essentially, as to what's going on. And, what they find is a lot of Grimm guarding what appears to be the lab, and Weiss is like, those weren't there before. And Batman realizes those are illusions, deadly illusions, but they're illusions, they're not real Grimm. And Weiss uses her semblance and dust against them, and he finds that dust is not working on them, in fact, they're absorbing it. And thankfully they're actually able to get into the lab using her rapier to cut through so they can get in because, well, he's having a bit of a hard time with it. And they start trying to investigate what was in there because it's set up like a command center in there when it's not supposed to. Anyway, Jean and Jessica are trying to find that dang ring. It's not on the desk where she left it, or where it was left, essentially. So someone swiped it, and apparently Vixen has a necklace that she's missing as well. And she's trying to figure out how to use her power, aka her semblance, and Jean is trying to help encourage her as best he can, considering he had a hard time unlocking his own. And this has got to be at, what, Volume 6, I think? Because I think that's when he unlocked his semblance. And he ends up getting her to somehow access her abilities a little bit, to the point where she ends up finding herself in a white void type room. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And she somehow was able to transport him to it, and they're able to break out of it after a very familiar looking tentacle-like Grimm from that killed Lionheart back in, I don't remember which volume. I think that was volume 6. And they managed to get out of that, and it turns out that this is an illusion, and they realize this as they're trying to get the heck out of there, and it turns out that Impera is trying to communicate with Jean through the illusion. The illusion it's an illusion, essentially. It's not real, obviously, because Pierre's dead. But Jean forgets for a second that this is not... He knows it's not real, but yet he still believes her, obviously. And she locks the two of them in a room, essentially telling them, yeah, you're not telling the Justice League on this one. So, yeah, she's part of the illusion. And, after some talking it over with Jessica and, well, the fact that the walls were closing in on them, she's finally able to use her power after reciting the Green Lantern motto. Still don't have a ring, obviously, but yeah. And they're able to get out of there, but while this was going on, Blake, Yang, and Diana managed to get to where Weiss and Batman are and save them from a bunch of Grimm illusions. And, Ruby and the others end up finding a ton of Grimm, including that big old wyvern one that she froze on top of Beacon Tower at the end of Volume 3. And when they finally are able to beat it... Oh, and I forgot to actually mention this, but, there's a bit of jealousy from Ren, because Cyborg and Nora are kind of hitting it off a little bit, at least being civil with each other, and I guess he don't like that. And, yeah, when they're able to beat that thing, it doesn't disappear or even freeze like it did before. It glitches out big time, reboots, and splits into 2 big Grimm. They don't do that. Everybody who's watched the show knows they don't do that. So they know that something is very wrong here and that this is not normal. And the others end up finally meeting up with each other. And it turns out that, because they were trying to brainstorm as to who the heck had brought them there, because they were fighting some enemy right when they got transported there. And it turns out that it's an enemy that in their world called Kilgore. Like I said, I don't know the DC universe really well, so I don't think I've seen the enemy, but he was possessing Flash. And, yeah, the Flash is still in there, so Bruce kind of figures this out, and is able to get him out of the Flash, but this guy went and goes and possesses that gigantic Grim. And after some coordinated attacks, they're actually able to defeat it and get rid of him, thanks to Jessica getting her ring back and Vixen getting her necklace back, and Jessica using her ability with the Green Lantern ring, which we all know can create just about anything with energy, essentially, to beat him enough to where it knocked him out of the simulation. And apparently, he was assigned to not only trap the Justice League, because, they're his enemy, but whoever is working with him on this and set this whole thing up, not only trapped him in there too, but he did it because he wanted his enemies in there too, aka RWBY and the others. And I'm like, who are they talking about? Because the one enemy that we know of that RWBY and the others are trying to take down now is Salem, and Salem is not a he. Salem is a she. And the only other enemy I could possibly think of would be the Curious Cat, which is a he. But that thing was destroyed in Volume 9, as far as we know. So, I don't know who the enemy is, but I'm assuming that's going to be Part 2. If you guys have anything you want to say on this, correct me on any character stuff for DC, because like I said, I'm lousy when it comes to that. Or anything. And if you like it, if you haven't checked out my channel before, check out, I'm caught up on the original RWBY. I'm about to do RWBY Chibi Season 4, that's on YouTube. Probably tonight or tomorrow, depending on when I get a chance. And I got so many other things on here, I hope you like something on here. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.